Hey everybody, my name is Danny Dumas, and this is the Earn Your Title podcast. I've got my friend and life coach, Lindsey Heiserman. Lindsey, why don't you tell me about yourself and we'll get going.
Isn't that the best question when people ask that? Tell me about yourself. In what way?
Everything.
How many things?
Oh,
all the things.
Since birth.
How much time do we have? Well, I want to start by saying that I met Danny on the Tough Mudder course, which is such a fun way to meet people. And it's definitely part of my story. So I love to obstacle race, and I've been a personal trainer for 17 years and also a life coach. So I decided a few years into my personal training career that there was just so much behind movement, why people wanted to move. And I found that when I was training, I knew I was never going to be the type of personal trainer who was like, all right, let's max out your deadlift. Let's do this really scientific program. But I was the type of person who wanted you to feel better after you came to the gym, to enjoy your body, to improve what you were doing. And I found myself also doing a lot of behavior change coaching. So I ended up getting a master's degree in counseling and psychotherapy, and I thought I would move into a therapy role, become a therapist, and it just wasn't quite right for me. And then I also did a life coach training and found that that was really the mix I was looking for to help people even more. So that's professionally. Like I said, I love to obstacle race. I have my own business and, spend as much time outside as I can in Minnesota. Yes, in the winter too.
So I will say this, you say you like the obstacle course race, but I would like to put that in perspective. A lot of people like to go do things. You have taken it to another level. You've done over 100 now That's just Tough Mudders, right? Not including the other stuff.
Correct.
That is impressive. And like you said, we met out on the course. I was with my mom and you guys were just super kind. And we've probably done 5 or 6 races together, I would think. And one of the things that always impressed me is you are always in a coaching. I feel like that's just who you are. Like we'll walk, and we've done some 24-hour races. So we've spent significant, hours and hours and hours together. And you definitely have a way of just talking that doesn't feel like you're actually trying to pull something out of me, but you always have that just, you can see that there's other places you can go and you ask good questions. So my first, hopefully a good question is, what actually is a life coach? Because you're the only one I know, so you're obviously the best. But what does that mean to be a life coach? That's a newer career. Like that probably wasn't around 10 years ago, at least not that I know of. So you're my first one. What is a life coach?
Yeah, great question. And I do want to say you are correct because I got my master's degree 8 or 9 years ago at this point, and I didn't know what I was going to do with life coaching. Like it was really a great thing for me, and I'll talk about what it is in a second, but people were using it in corporations, but nothing outside of that. They weren't, the average person wasn't hiring a life coach really at the time, and it has gained a lot of popularity. But what I have experienced with my clients is that, how we get support throughout our life, whether it's a teacher, a coach, even your counselor at school, maybe there's your church. There's people who are there to help you along the way. And you can talk to them, they bounce ideas off of, and then you get to be an adult. And sometimes you look around and you're like, where did those support people go? And the support people you need are not always your family and friends, right? You need that outside support. And so my role as a life coach is really to support you in your life, but to ask questions. Funny that you said that about I'm a good question asker, because that is really my strength as a life coach, is asking you questions to direct you to new ways of thinking, to challenge ways of thinking that you have, to challenge maybe some beliefs that are there, and then to guide you and assist you towards your goals. So you want to ask another question or should I go again?
No, that was good. The other, when I think, I grew up playing sports, and like you said, I had coaches. It would have been ridiculous to think that me and my buddies would have shown up at 5:30 after school and got through something, and with a goal in mind. We couldn't do that. We didn't have the capability. And I think it's interesting that as we grow up and become adults, we don't even expect that or look for that. We just like, you know what, I made it an adult. I'm going to just wing it, and hopefully it's okay, because we're winging some really important things. You're winging your career. You're just guessing that you're going to be a good parent. And I think having somebody from the outside is really important. What is the process that people would go through when they contact you? Like, is there a typical thing? Is it, weight loss or fitness? Like, is it usually in one vein, or they just say, you know what, Lindsey, I feel like I could be better. Help me be better. How does that usually work? Is it a certain problem, or is it just in general, help me? How does that look like?
I like to say people have a life coaching entry point. So, like you said, for a lot of people, it's health and wellness. It's sort of this, I don't want to say low barrier, but they know they want to improve their health and wellness. And since my background is personal training, a lot of people will come in that avenue. Not all of them. I would say that's probably a third. A third of people come for something else, like very specific. My kids are retiring. My kids are retiring. I'm retiring, or my kids are leaving home. People in transition of things, maybe a transition of a job. So something in a different like bucket of life. Or grief is another one that I've worked a lot with.
Mhm.
People who have maybe not wanted to go back to grief therapy, but have a lot to move through, but they want to do it in a proactive way. And then I would say a third of people are like, I don't know, but I know I want some help. Like I feel like I want more, or I feel like I'm stuck. Something doesn't feel right, and they can't articulate it. And they know they should start, so they do. And then we sort of walk through it and figure out where to start.
Gotcha. You mentioned something about therapy. Could you tell me, like, talking from guys, many of the guys I work with, and even in my career, like, we have employee assistants where we see some terrible things. There's some post-traumatic stress, and we understand that now, especially, that we need to go get therapy because some of those things are very harmful. But some of the things are not. They're just stressful, and we work them out. I call it sitting on the benches. We sit down and talk to each other. It just kind of like, it was a bad call, but not, I don't think I have PTSD, maybe just PTS. I'm not disordered. What is the difference between therapy and who needs therapy versus coaching? What is because you obviously have expertise in both.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason that I went life coaching more than becoming certified as a therapist is probably a really good answer to this. And I didn't want to take people into the past and drudge up everything that's behind you. And that's not all therapy does, but that is a lot of what therapy does. Tell me about this incident that happened in the past and let's talk through it. Whereas coaching is really proactive. What do you want to
Okay.
do going forward? Now, I will say, because I am trained in really both, I will ask clients permission. Do you want to go down this road? I feel like this could be important for you. And they can say yes or no. And I'd love to
Mhm.
give an example here, if that would help.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, one of my clients, his mom died when he was a teenager, super traumatic, and just has really affected the way he's lived the rest of his life. He had grief therapy as a teenager, and now he's, 30, and stuff just, it's fine. But, grief follows you. Grief
Yeah.
morphs and shifts as you grow older and have life experiences. And he kept saying to me, maybe I need therapy. I'm not sure. And we were doing some coaching. And finally, he tried. He went to a therapist. He said, okay, I think I'm going to do that. Maybe I do need a little bit more intensity. And he came back and he goes, yeah, no, no. I sat down in the chair and they just said, tell me about your mom dying. Like they just zeroed in on it. Whereas
Right.
what we do is we focus on your future goals and what's happening right now. And if I feel like there's something that is maybe tied to that part of his life, I'll say, do you
Right.
think this has anything to do with this experience? And he'll say, oh, I didn't think about it that way. But it's very different than sit down and just tell me about it in
Right.
therapy. And so I think people have that experience where they don't really want to go all the way in therapy necessarily. And so coaching is a little bit less intimidating for people. And I do think people need both sometimes. So
Right.
I will say to clients like that one, do you want to try therapy? And here's a few reasons why it might be helpful, and leave that door open.
Would you say it's fair, kind of like a doctor? Like, I feel like the job of my primary care physician is to get me to zero. If I'm unhealthy, have a disease state, whatever, he's going to fix me and get me to just normal.
Mhm.
And then if I want to get better, I go work out and get a personal trainer, nutritionist. Like, they take me to like optimal.
Mhm.
Would you say that's kind of maybe therapists help you get unsick, and then maybe a life coach helps you get to optimal? Because a therapist or a doctor doesn't have time to get me to a great status. He just has time for get me to unhealthy or not unhealthy.
Yeah.
Is that
I think that's pretty fair because I also have referred clients to therapists because they need to get on medication. They
Right.
really do need to address an anxiety or a depression. And I've said to them, coaching, to your great example, helps you from zero forward. But sometimes you need help getting from negative 20 and getting
Right.
your brain kind of leveled out. And that you can do with medication, with the psychotherapist, sometimes with a therapist. And once you're at, base level, then
Right.
you can sort of launch off from there. So that's a good way to put it.
That's awesome. What is the process of becoming a life coach? You have a master's degree in talking to people, right? That you've
Mhm.
extensively. What is the next? What is the focus of life coaching? Like, what is like? Say, hey, I want to be a life coach. I like talking to people. Is it just giving good advice? Like, what is the interaction there? Um,
I'm not,
what is the education of a life coach?
this is a touchy subject.
Oh, okay,
Only because people will say out in the world, there's not regulation on life coaching. And this
gotcha.
is where it's really helpful if you're considering a life coach to ask them about their education, because there are a lot of people, especially on Instagram and social media, who are like, I'm a life coach because they lost 20 pounds and have decided that they like helping people. Or someone said, oh, you're good at talking to people, you should be a life coach. And they're like, oh, okay, great
Right,
idea. But it's not advice. It's not advice at all. And coaching is about listening first to what someone is saying and really listening around everything that they're saying, because I can hear things the way you can't. I can hear the way you say things. I can hear the things you're not saying that are important. And it's
right,
my job to strategically ask the questions to help you. And so the education out there are certifying programs. Do you have to get a master's degree like me? Definitely not. I could have done my coaching certification and not had the master's degree for sure.
right,
So there are certifying programs, but if someone is interested in working with a coach, ask them what their experiences are, where their education is from, and just get a little more background, because it's not just chatting with people.
right. And I kind of feel like that might be somebody who's hesitant to get a life coach because they think, I got friends, like
Right.
they tell me their opinion all the time. They tell me I'm doing some dumb stuff and some smart stuff. But yeah, it'd be like me playing basketball, my coach just telling me, hey, this is how you shoot a free throw. You flick your wrist and hold the ball like this. Well, that's not really coaching. Coaching is putting me through the reps and sets and coming up with a training scheme to get me out there on the court, put me in stressful situations, and like that's coaching. Just literally giving advice. I guess there's probably part of that is coaching. Hey, this has worked well. In the personal fitness space, try intermittent fasting, try low calorie. Like you are giving some advice, but that's it. That's encouraging to hear. It's not just talking. Like it's not just somebody who's very knowledgeable. You're actually trying to truly coach.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool.
And I do think the key is to hear what you're not saying, because that's really important. And that takes training to really hear that, because people who are giving advice or who just decided to be a life coach, they're going to likely, I shouldn't generalize all the way,
Right.
but it's going to be very surface level. And the
Right.
skill that I've really worked hard to develop and have been trained in is what's beneath what you're saying. What questions can I ask that will be really beneficial to help you? Because coaching is, I'm not leading you. I'm not leading you to where I want you to go. I'm simply asking the next question to help you
Right.
think about something, to challenge your thinking, to see what you're going to say, and then to keep doing that repeatedly. And we can get into this in a little bit, but with some people, I do Voxer only coaching, which is a voice messaging app back and forth.
Okay.
And I have a couple of clients who love it because they want to have time to listen to my message. So I will coach in a voicemail, ask
Right.
questions, give feedback. They'll listen to it, and then they have time to listen to it again,
Hmm.
write notes, think about their answer. And that's part of, I think people get intimidated by therapy or coaching, is they think it's this intense, like we're face to face, and
Right.
I'm a little nervous about what they might ask me or if I'm going to have the right answer. There is no right answer, but like, will I come up with something right away? So there
Right.
are other methods of coaching too that can be really impactful.
Gotcha. What is the actual process? So, Lindsey, you're awesome. I decided I need a life coach for pick the reason. What does that look like? Obviously, you mentioned Voxer and talking, but what does it normal client, coach relationship / program look like?
hmm So people come in, like I said, with an entry point. They'll say, this is what I probably want to focus on, or I feel stuck, or health and wellness. Usually it's one of those three things. And we'll meet and chat about it because this is probably me not following good business advice from all the business people in the world, but everyone is individual. So I
Right.
want to know from you, what kind of interactions do you want? Do you want face to face coaching? Because that can happen. Do you want Voxer only? Would that be better for you? How do you want to meet? What works with your lifestyle? What's important to know is that frequency does matter. So in the beginning, it's like when you start a fitness program. If you only go
Sure.
once a week, you'll get fewer benefits. You won't be as consistent than if you go more frequently. So a lot of times with coaching, people will start with, let's say, a couple sessions a month, and then they
Good.
can wean down from there. I have a lot of clients who do like a maintenance session once a month. We've kind of
Right.
come out of our crisis mode, if you will, not crisis bad, but why you
Yeah.
started coaching. And then they'll go down to a maintenance phase where they meet less often. And I do hear from people, I can just hear your voice in my head, or they actually get good at asking themselves the questions that I would likely ask.
Like, what would Lindsay ask?
Cool. Yeah, yeah, so
Yeah.
you also get pretty good at coaching yourself, which is a
That-
really important skill.
That's awesome. All right. Are you ready to hear my problem? You ready to coach me?
I'm ready.
Okay, so I'm starting this podcast. This is something new for me. In my entire adult life, I've been a fireman. I've been a fireman for 23 years, and I'm good at it. But I understand that as I'm getting older, the job of a firefighter is a challenging, physically demanding, somewhat stressful, and I can't do it forever. So me starting this podcast, me kind of feeling a calling to help men become better husbands, fathers, and leaders is uh, is something that I think could be my next thing. I'm looking ahead, 5 years or so. But I have a really hard time that I'm just a fireman. I don't really run a business. And when I first started this, actually, like, I'll just talk to people and I'll put it out there. And as I did some research and try to get some information on technical side and actually people running podcasts, what I realized is that if you don't monetize, you probably can't keep it up because the sacrifice is too much. But I have a really hard time thinking I'm going to make money with this. How do I move past that block of maybe, call it the imposter syndrome, or help me just make some initial steps to, like, say, it's okay to make this a business, not just a hobby. That's my crisis or my problem right now.
What part of not being a firefighter worries you?
Just that I don't know what I'm doing. Like I feel like I have an expertise in a certain pretty niche, right?
Mhm.
Like it's very focused. I don't have just the not knowing what people that own businesses do. I've always had a paycheck from somebody else. So it's the not necessarily not being a firefighter, is that it's being something else that I don't know how to do that.
Mhm. Which I would argue a little bit here is that you do know enough so far. We are on this podcast. You have technology out there. You have started. So now
Right.
that you've taken that step forward, what is still in the back of your head, and why? What's the long-term thought that's the most frightening?
Probably, like, it sounds weird that, like, people, like, that's what you're doing now, like, almost like you're a podcaster, or you're I don't know I don't even know the right word. I don't know what word it would be. I don't know what I'm trying to get to become that word. But you run a podcast. That's what you do for a living, or you speak. You're a speaker in front of people.
Oh, that's
They're gonna feel like that's weird. Like that's because literally, and I don't know too many careers, I get introduced to people as, hey, this is my friend Danny. He's a firefighter. Like, and I don't ever introduce myself. Hi, my name's Danny. I'm a firefighter. But people do that.
yeah,
My family does that. It's like, it's kind of weird. Like,
yeah.
I don't know any accountants. Like, hey, this is my friend Brian. He's an accountant. So like, who I am is part of like, my firefighting. That part is who I am. And for me to change that seems weird. And so that's probably my scary, like, can I be something else? I've done this for so long. Could I actually have a career that pays me enough money to live on that I wouldn't have to be a firefighter? Like, that scares me.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it interesting though that people do that? We're one of the only places I believe in. You're more well traveled in other countries that the first thing you have to know about someone is what they do.
Yeah.
Like your name and what you do. It's an
Right.
automatic, and whether people ask you, that's why I've worked a little bit harder when people ask me like on podcasts,
Right.
tell me about yourself. It's like, well, the default is always to say like what we do, which I am
Right.
clearly not as good at moving past that yet. So when you think about people introducing you, let's even take your parents.
Okay.
How do you think they're going to introduce you if you are no longer a firefighter? Like, what will they say?
Um, I have no idea. This is my son. I'm proud of him. Like my parents are pretty awesome. I don't know. I guess they would, maybe mention what I'm actually doing. I don't know if they would understand if I said I'm a podcaster. What that even is Danny, he helps men be better people. That would be, I guess, what I would hope they would say. That would be the words that I would, he's leading people.
Mhm,
He's a leader.
mhm.
I don't know if they would say that though.
Right. They might just say, "Oh, it's Danny. He's this is Danny."
Right. Right. This is my son. This is my favorite son by
Yeah,
far.
right. Exactly. Exactly. That's a good enough introduction.
Right.
Personally, very
Hmm.
much for you, what does it feel like to think about a day where you would wake up and you wouldn't be a firefighter?
I mean, a little scary because that's been my whole personality, and I probably wouldn't. I'd probably always be a firefighter in my head. Like I would. That's because I feel like it's kind of like a calling, and maybe that's where I'm struggling with, because I do feel like I was called to be a firefighter. I think I'm good at it. I'm currently leading people, but I think it's given me the skills, which is taking me to the next level. Because when I was younger, I wanted to be a good like tactician. I wanted to know how to get inside the building and move quickly and do a search and do all these details and like tie knots. And as I've gotten older and I've become a leader, because I don't go into burning buildings very often anymore, only when I'm on overtime. Now I'm leading people. And so I'm currently developing those skills, and I'm a little bit with that side of it. I still feel like I'm a new person with that, because it's been 4 or 5 years, and I feel like I probably need 10 years where I feel like I am good at giving commands, giving orders. So I'm learning that side. And I think that's what's taking me down the road is, hey, I am becoming a leader. I know at work I'm a leader. I get called and asked good and dumb questions all day long. So I think it wouldn't scare me to do something else, but it would just be very strange that I'm not leading people from a command car. I'm leading people from an internet screen or on phone calls, coaching or something along those lines. So there's a little bit of just not knowing and insecurity of trying to get there, I guess.
Do you think you have to be one or the other, or can they coexist?
I think they can coexist. If I work for another 7 years till I'm 50, I'll have been a firefighter for 30 years. That's who I'm. It is who I am. It will be, it's who I'm going to be. So I think they can coexist. I don't think it has to be one or the other.
Hmm. Is it knowledge you're lacking? Is it confidence because of something new? Or is it the scariness of what will the future hold? Like, which one of those feels most prominent?
I think it's the scariness for what the future holds, for good or bad. I'm a confident person. My wife tells me sometimes I have to tone it back. I'm confident. I see something and I attack it and I accomplish it and I've been successful. So I think it's just the scariness of, can I actually do it? And I think that's where the imposter syndrome comes of. I can put all this work in or effort. Is it going to actually, will men tune into this podcast and hear me? And can I actually make a difference? Or am I just talking? Because obviously, this talking on a microphone, especially when you don't have like an interview like this, is weird.
Hmm.
Room by myself talking to a microphone, will that make a difference? And I really want it to. I really have a desire to make a difference. So it's scary that might not work, but I guess there's really no consequences. It's just what if it does work? What if this becomes super successful and I have to make a decision sooner than I thought? Because right now I'm looking, when I turn 50, I can start collecting my retirement, and then it would be easy to leave. And what happens if this is big in 2 years and I have to make a decision when I'm 45 to and I won't have a pension coming in, so I think it's a little bit of that. It's that scariness of what if nothing happens, which I think realistically, I can understand there's no consequences, so it's not a big deal. But if it's successful, that's probably even the more scary thing, that I might have to make a decision to leave something that I'm good at for something that I'm learning. And that maybe that's my where I'm hesitant.
I think most people, myself included, we're not scared of failure. It's actually pretty easy to fail. We've done it a lot. We've all done it a lot in small
Right.
ways and big ways, and we've recovered from it. We have moved past it. We have learned from it.
Right.
We have moved on. But it's this idea that what if I become a really big podcaster? What if I'm on a stage speaking to 20,000 people? Or
Right.
what if I have clients who want to coach with me? What if that happens? And truly, like, what if?
Right.
That's a real question. What if that happens? What are you going to do?
Yeah, I don't know. That's I think that's probably it. That is the question. Am I okay with giving up what I know for the potential for what I'm excited about, what the future is? And it would be obviously good, but scary. That I'm not a self-employed person. I am not reliant. Next Thursday, I'm getting paid.
Wow, that's
And
so cool. What a novel idea.
I know. I'm getting health insurance. I'm getting all these things.
Uh-huh.
And then that's the scary part. To say yes to what I'm currently going towards, what I kind of have in my mind, means that I have to do scary things. And but it's exciting. I think I would. If I could get this to where it is, in 2 years, I'll have worked for 25 years, and that is a career.
Hmm.
And I think I could be excited about. I did my career as a firefighter. Now I'm going to do my career as a name the thing that I haven't figured out yet. And I think I could do that, but it would be scary. And
I heard a quote the other day. Someone said, the most interesting people I know in life are ones who have had three careers. And I thought that was so fascinating. Like three distinct careers they were talking about. And we pigeonhole ourselves into one thing. I am this thing that I started when I was 20.
right,
But why can't you be another thing?
right.
Why can't
That's
you roll your skills, like you said, into another thing? I want to go back to one thing you said, though.
okay.
You said, I'm not sure if men will listen. I'm not sure if they'll
Right.
hear me. I think you do know the answer to that question. Will they listen and will they hear you?
Yeah. I mean, I don't see why not. I think I've got good things to say. I'm interviewing nice people like you, and I know I do. Like I don't listen to the radio hardly ever. I listen to people that are somewhere else that I want to be, coaches or Navy SEALs or things. So I think there's people out there that need what we're talking about. So yeah, I think people will listen. I guess yeah, they'll listen.
And what
If I build it,
evidence?
maybe they'll come.
Well, and what evidence do you have of that in your life currently, where people will listen?
Yeah, I've obviously this podcast is not actually launching for another 2 weeks, but at my church, I'm in charge of the men's ministry, and I've had multiple events where hundreds of people have showed up. Like I do have some evidence, and I'm currently being listened to by 30 guys a day when I'm at work. Now they have to because I'm their boss, but I think they listen and they pay attention. If that makes sense, they're actually. So yeah, I do have some. I think I have some proof that I can do what I want to do or what I'm looking to do. So there's some evidence out there that I could be successful.
Can I walk you through a 4-point process?
Yes, absolutely.
So when we think about goals, in this case, your goal sounds like, if we're thinking long term, it would be change careers, have a career, a podcast, maybe speaking, maybe clients, like a more, let's call it a coaching career. Correct?
Okay, great.
That sound right?
Yeah, sounds right.
That's the outcome. And we do a lot of goal setting. We're like, okay, how do I get to there? Right? Like I see it, that's the goal. And we're
Right,
taught to do these SMART goals where, we measure them and we put a date on them and all this and that. But we miss a lot of steps along the way.
right.
So I want to backtrack you to the beginning of this, which is, what is the identity you want to have? Like, describe to me who you want to be in a little bit more detail in that future.
Okay.
Use podcaster, like just tell me more about the identity of the person you want to be.
Yeah, I would be somebody who is looked to as a trusted resource to either give them information, bring them information, and inspire them to be the people that I know that they can be. So I would like to be a beacon of like, hey, he's doing it. He's normal. He's not special. He struggles with, eating too many sweets and all these issues. And he has kind of brought these resources together and then handed them to you in an attractive package that, you can follow along with, you can purchase, you can.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to be a resource for men who are maybe a little bit behind me. Like, when I have an avatar, and he's a guy who just got married, he's got a kid, and he didn't have a great home life. He didn't know his dad, and he needs some of these skills because he knows he needs it because he's been around those people. I want to be that person for someone who's maybe 15 years behind me to help them, maybe not make the mistakes I have. So I want to help influence them to be the person they know they can and give them those tools. That's kind of my vision for what that would look like.
Mm-hmm. Which to me, I'm like getting excited when you're talking about that. I'm like, yes, okay, cool. I can see that. I can feel the person that you want to influence, that you want to help, that you want to assist. And this is giving me a little more, and hopefully you too, a little more excitement about it, a little more depth instead of this, I want to be a podcaster or my end goal is to leave firefighting. Like,
Right.
different, right? This is the identity of the person. So from there, and this is the key, which you said at the beginning as well, is what are the action steps that you're going to take? And you said, I don't really know business, or what would it be like to be a self-employed person? I'm unsure of what the future holds. And so these are all questions that can be answered, right? So you can get questions answered. You can interview, talk to people who have a business, ask them all their questions. You can, create a map for yourself. You can figure out all the ways that you're nervous about things and what might it look like. Not everything, but as you go through these action steps, publish this podcast, get started, tell everyone that I know I'm doing this. Then the third category is really chalking up some wins, right?
Gotcha.
Hey, I published the podcast. I learned about self-employed taxes. Oh my God, this is how much health insurance will cost me. I'm going to rethink everything. Never mind. Back to the beginning.
Right.
And then it will move you towards your outcome. So
Right.
if we start with the identity, okay, I want to be this kind of person. Well, what does that kind of person do? Here are the action steps, and we can narrow down some because you said you want to leave with some concrete action steps.
Right.
And then, like I said, you create the wins, and then it
Okay.
moves you towards your outcome. But the outcome doesn't always have to have a date. And especially in this
Right.
scenario, if you said, when I'm 47, I'm going to be done, it's so arbitrary. I mean, you said, well, maybe if I work till 50, that would kind of make sense. But also, what if I'm done before that? But if you focus on the identity, the timeline just sort of disappears a little bit.
No, I like that a lot because I really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so why, and I don't have to. If I knew like at this date, I'm going to be done, I have to have something, that puts a little bit of stress on. And I do like the idea of I can be successful as soon as I create the identity that I want.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean I'm, I'm not Joe Rogan with 20 million followers. It just means maybe I help somebody, and that's successful. And I like that. I think that's good. That's cool.
And you can embody that identity in your work as a firefighter. It's not as if that's
Right.
lost either. So you can start to bring both of them together to really appreciate the ways in which you are being that person as a firefighter and bridging it into this next thing and saying, wow, I'm doing this over here. I wonder how I could do that over here.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
So what are these action steps that you think you might need to do to move you closer to the identity?
See, this is where the coach comes in, and all right, running suicides to make. So what can I do? Well, I know I need to publish the work that I've done so far, and I think I'm on track to do that. So the first action step will be I'm going to publish 3 episodes. My introducing myself, a solo show I did by myself, and then a interview show. So I'm going to do 3 on that first Tuesday in August. So that is my first launch into the world. But I think, and this is probably a little bit scary, is I need to tell everybody I know and ask them for help. Like one of my plans is to like, DM not everybody that it's in my demographic of who I would like to talk to and say, will you listen to me? And that part is scary because then I'm not Danny Dumas, the firefighter. I'm Danny Dumas doing this other thing. And that's scary. But I know I need to take that step is just literally reaching out. Hey, will you watch an episode and review it on Apple Podcast? So those are probably the first two things that I need to do to move forward.
And it's funny a little bit, the idea that we get nervous to tell people something that we're doing when I could almost guarantee you people will say, Danny, that's so awesome. I can't wait to listen. Or
I
they
know,
just
and
won't
they have.
respond. I mean, that's
Right,
also fine. What I've learned
right,
too is people are busy. Their non-response does not mean they're
right,
not listening to it or that they didn't acknowledge it or that they're not excited for you. It means they've got 14,000 things going on that day. But in 6 months, they might say, oh my gosh, Danny, I listened to that podcast finally. It's so
right,
great. Thanks for telling me
right,
about it.
right. It's funny. I literally go into burning buildings, and as I've gotten older, I have much more fear of that. When I was younger, I wasn't cocky. I just wasn't smart enough to know this is all really dangerous.
Right.
But it doesn't stress me out anymore. Like, but like the thought of doing that definitely does, which is logically stupid. Like there's no consequence. There's no lion that's going to come and attack me. I'm not going to fall through a floor or get burned, but it is funny that is like a concern. I'm going to tell people that I'm trying to do something good. And what if they say that's stupid? And then I know it doesn't matter.
And you know they
But it's,
also won't.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
No one's going to tell me.
Right.
I mean, I guarantee at work, they're going to give me a little bit of a hard time, but we make fun of each other for literally,
Yeah.
I could give them $1 million and then they make fun of me for, I don't know, something. So I've learned to understand that. But so those are, I think those are my action steps. And you face your fears and you keep moving on, right?
I want to share something that one of my clients told me, which I will never forget. I invited her, as in I shared what I was doing, a program with her. And I said, I'm doing this program. Would you like to be a part of it? And I was terrified because I'm like, I have to no one will do my thing if I don't actually tell them I'm doing my thing. Like, you have to
Right.
remember that people's lives are so busy and they don't see that one social media post that you made that you think is you telling the world.
Right.
3 people saw it. You know what I mean? And so you have to actually share this with people one-on-one. And she said to me, I'm so honored that you thought I would be good for this program. I would love to do it. And I just thought, wow, like she's feeling so loved by me
Right.
sharing it with her because I thought it was good for her. And I'm over here being terrified that I'm going to look stupid.
Yeah. It's like, I've got a piece of cake. I want to give it to you. And then be nervous that they would not want a piece of cake. Like everybody wants cake,
It's
gluten-free, obviously.
obvious.
Obviously.
Yes. But
Um,
we're afraid of what people will say. But in fact, if we're telling people that are in our life,
mhm.
chances are they love us, they appreciate us. And I will also say this, a lot of the judgment people give is from their own insecurity of what they're not doing that they have thought potentially about doing.
Yeah.
So I've gotten feedback before. Oh, wow. You have your own business. That's awesome. And I'm like, what does that mean? What are you saying? But people are so they cannot imagine for themselves a life where there's not a steady paycheck or there isn't a clear cut path. That's not
Right.
for them. And that's fine. But they don't
Right.
know how to express that. So it comes off a little judgy of what you're doing. And those are
Right.
things that you just learn over time. But if one of your action items is to tell people what you're doing, think of it as like a gift to them. Like, what if it does change their life? Your
Right.
podcast. What if it really turns the corner for them and they're like, Danny, that podcast you did really affected my life and I was able to change this, this, and this. What if you didn't even tell them?
Right. No, that's huge. Yeah, no, I agree. Lindsey, this is cool. And so this is coaching, right?
Yeah.
This is coaching. Guys, if you like what me and Lindsey just did, she is available. Are you mostly online? Do you actually have some face-to-face, or are you almost all over Zoom? What's your...
I do with some people locally if they want to meet, but I would say most of my clients are this, and I will say, this is important to know yourself. I am not going to force you into a face-to-face meeting. Some people like just the phone. It's less intimidating.
Right.
Some people
Right.
like a face-to-face connection. Some people like that Voxer. So don't be afraid to say, I'm not sure I want to do a face-to-face, but how about a phone call? So
Gotcha.
I have clients who do coaching in a variety of ways that it works for you.
And how would they get a hold of you to get some awesome coaching like you just gave me?
Yeah, email is probably the easiest way. So it's my name, just Lindsey at lindseyheiserman.com. You can also check it out on my website. I'll send you those links as well. Or head over to Instagram at Lindsey Heiserman Coaching. And I'd love to chat in the messages too.
Gotcha. And I would say if you're in Minnesota and you see somebody with a bacon costume on, Lindsey's somewhere near there.
That's probably true. We like to cause shenanigans all over. Yes,
Maybe in Target with a bacon costume
that's
on.
right.
Uh, yeah, it's an inside joke. If you follow Lindsey on Instagram, you'll probably see what I'm talking about, which you should go do, because every day you're dropping really good stuff on social media, and I listen, I watch. I don't know if it's everything because I don't know how much you're putting out, but it's good stuff.
Thank
Like it's
you.
quality.
Can I share
Yeah,
one more thing that just from
absolutely.
person to, person who's wanting to become podcasting and do the things?
Gotcha.
I don't like to think that I'm a pretty fun person. And
Yeah.
when I go to do my social media, it's like I freeze and I'm like, well, I better teach something really important about life coaching. Oh my God. And then
Right.
I do that, and it doesn't feel
Right.
quite like people know who I am, right? So funny you say that, because we'll do dance videos or different things. And the other day I was like, you know what? I'm just going to post one of these really dumb dance videos that we do. And it got the most likes and the most comments and the most engagement. And I mean, of course it did, because it's lighthearted, it's funny, it's silly, but it's a good reminder to me that, like, also life's not that serious. And I love my
Right.
job, but coaching is also really fun. Like, it's not like this,
Yeah.
my life sucks and I need to improve my life. Like, coaching can be really fun. And I like
Yeah.
to think coaching with me is fun, but also infuse your personality into it a little bit, which I start to forget, but I'm trying to include more of that. So don't forget that.
Well, I do like your knowledge bombs, but the dance videos are pretty epic as
See?
well. Yeah. It's good. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Cool. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you'd like to get out there before we wrap it up?
Sure. I think that people, how do I want to phrase this? Coaching can be so valuable, even in a minimum effective dose. And like I said, a lot of people go into sort of a maintenance mode, but knowing that you have a person to say what you really want to say, and this is probably the one thing about coaching that I did not say, is that I encourage people to be honest in coaching. And this is why it doesn't work to have your friends and family be the people that are your soundboards, because I will say to clients, tell me what you really want to say. Like, really want to say. Say it in the exact way you want to say it, even if you think it's hurtful, like, you have to move the thoughts from your brain out of your body. And in
Yeah.
coaching, you can do that. And then I'll say things like, do you want to do anything with that information? Like, do you want to talk about how you could talk to your partner about that? Or does it just feel good to have it out?
Right.
Half the time it just feels good to say it the way you want to say it and process it with someone. And then you don't have it stuffed down inside.
Right.
So I think overall, I would just say, think of coaching as just a way to support you and for you to be able to really say what you want to say. And that in and of itself will improve your life.
I like it, and I think that's a good place to stop. So, guys, if you liked this, contact Lindsey. She's cool. She dances, and if it's not Lindsey, find somebody that you can, just connect with. What you just did for me in the next 20 minutes, I think, you probably know this, I knew those things, but to have someone tell me, hey, you need to take these action steps, or you didn't even tell me that. You just asked me what they were. That's cool. Like, I'm excited. Like, it's the push to keep going. So guys, go out and do that. If you enjoyed this episode, I ask you for two things. One, share it with somebody that you know needs this. And two, put what you learn into action. And remember, earn your title every day. I'm Danny Dumas, and I will talk to you later.